welcome back to Procurement and Supply Chain Live Singapore 2025. And this is time for our final fireside chat of the afternoon. First of all, we are joined by Sebastian Chua, Head of Procurement at the Health Promotion Board of the Ministry of Health in Singapore. Also with us, Ramesh Krishnamurthy, Global Head of Business and Regional Engagement Indirect Procurement at Philips. And also joining us with a late addition to our agenda is Kai Ling, CPO for DBS Bank. And we are having an absolute laser focus on procurement leadership in action, balancing stakeholders, innovation and risk. Hi to all of you. Thank you very much for joining us. I don't think we've got Sebastian on camera, but we will be able to hear him. Good afternoon to all of you. How are you?
Great. Definitely, it is. The weather is not as exciting as anywhere in Europe. Here in Singapore, it's pretty good.
Good stuff. Well, as I said, we have a laser focus on procurement leadership here, and the first point we want to look at is balancing stakeholders and managing some of those difficult conversations. So first of all, some advice from all of you on how you go about managing difficult stakeholders. I introduced Sebastian first, so Sebastian, can I come to you first on that question?
Okay, cool. Just to check that you are able to hear me.
We can indeed.
Okay, good. So being in procurement, we all know that a large part of our job involved to persuade, to challenge, and to influence the business for a better decision. And thereby, in managing difficult stakeholders, I think we have to ask ourselves a basic question. Do we care for them? Do we know their motivation? And do we even speak their business language? As we know, there is no magic trick in winning over the business confidence. It just requires a lot of passion, perseverance, and even building credibility by delivering the small business win. As we know, the win may be small initially, but I'm confident that the win it will grow when we become more engaged in the business conversation. And when we start to win, I believe the people will then believe in us. And this is where collaboration is formed. And collaboration is key to any innovation. And if you ask me, what is my formula or what is my principle in managing difficult stakeholders? For me and my team, we stand guidance by this 5-point TEACH method, right? TEACH, T-E-A-C-H, if I were to spell for you guys. And what does T stand for? T basically means talk to the person. And when I say talk to the person, it's basically talk to the person to understand the pain point, their business priority, their challenges, and their interest area. Not so much about procurement policy, and that is not talking. And what is E? E is to evaluate what other procurement options we have to add value to the stakeholders. And the A would then mean to adapt our procurement style. And we can always adapt our style, but not adapting or not changing our procurement principle. And C is to create a common long-term objective between procurement and our business stakeholders. And lastly, the H is to help the person to understand where are the business opportunities for both parties to collaborate. And this is what I see that maybe one way for us to manage our difficult stakeholders. Over to you.
Thank you, Sebastian. The line was breaking up ever so slightly there, but I think we got the vast majority of that. Ramesh, if we can come to you next, your thoughts on managing difficult stakeholders.
Yeah, so to me, actually, managing difficult stakeholders is not as simple as complex as managing your own spouse or your partner every day. I mean, so that's the level of complexity. But it all comes down to where the interest lies. I mean, we have stakeholders who are actually not bothered about productivity or procurement savings and stuff like that. They are looking at how are we helping them with growth or how are we helping them with margin improvement. And we have stakeholders who basically are seriously looking at risk and how do we manage their risk. So the interest of the stakeholders in engaging us is very diverse. And the more we stick to our agenda, the more difficult these conversations become, and more you're making a very ideal stakeholder as a difficult stakeholder. So it's kind of very important for us to really understand where the sweet spot is and where do we really add value to the objectives of the stakeholder in engaging us, in short.
Thank you, Ramesh. I thought you were going to be a very brave man there to compare managing stakeholders, difficult stakeholders with
I tried my best. I tried my best.
I think you got out of it very well there. Kylie, if I can come to you next.
Yeah, I do echo Sebastian's and Ramesh's view. In fact, I'm sure our stakeholders will also think, why is it so difficult to deal with procurement? So when designing our processes and workflow, I think we need to balance their pain point with risk control. So, for example, we need to ask ourselves, when is control too excessive? Do we really need our stakeholders to negotiate to use a 20 pages terms and conditions just for a plumbing works, for example? So I think we do, as procurement professionals, we do have a part to play in making their journey joyful and yet balancing with adequate risk. And therefore, as part of collaboration, then communication do also play an important part. Have we see what is, explain from their view what is in need for them, instead of telling them you need to use the procurement workbench or you need to comply with the 10 steps due diligence process, but explain from their point of view what is in it for them, put it from their position.
No, that is a good way to view things. What I want to move on to next is measuring procurement success. It's something that could be done with data. It's something that could be done with a little bit of gut feeling, I suppose, sometimes. Ramesh, I'll start with you. How do you go about measuring procurement success?
Yeah, I mean, this is a very broad topic, and I mean, we could possibly talk about this the entire day, because every company, every corporation, depending on its own maturity and its own dynamics within that industry, the expectation changes, right? And also all the associated factors around success with the procurement. So, but I can kind of give you a bit of my context, and I'm personally a bit critical about how we get into a trap behind that success factor, is that the trap of productivity. So because that's the most easily measurable gauge one can use on procurement. And that's the trap we get into, and somehow strive ourselves to basically make ourselves successful within that trap. So to me, I think it's all a question of the value proposition we are trying to create for the organization, looking at what the overall aspiration of the company is, right? There are companies out there who are really looking at sustainability as a big contributor from procurement towards the overall corporate success. So I would say that we, instead of kind of really listing out what are the success factors, I would possibly say that we have to really outgrow ourselves in creating that value proposition, be agile to see, where does our contribution meet the overall success aspirations of the corporation, and kind of create that culture within the procurement organization. So it's a very broad-based answer. I don't want to kind of really say what matters to us here, but that would be my kind of an high-level view.
I think attaching it to the wider business or corporation's wider strategy is absolutely key. Kylie, if I can come to you next on this, your thoughts on measuring procurement success. How do you do it?
Okay, so we follow three big principles. How do we create value, enable value, and preserve value? So that will guide us in designing our scorecards and KPI to measure success. So say, for example, how do we create value means how do we deliver savings? How do we then from enterprise level perhaps also consider cross-selling, enabling our business to grow further? Then if we talk about enabling value, then what are some of the systems, initiatives that can take us further into deriving efficiencies? And then preserving values would be about what are we doing in terms of risk and control, and what are we doing in the areas of sustainability. So I think we are being guided always by these three principles that I have been using for the team.
Thank you. Sebastian, if we can come to you next. I know we can't see you, but hopefully you should be able to still hear you.
Yes, you can hear me?
Yes, we can. Do carry on.
Okay, good. So for me, in order to measure procurement success, I think firstly we need to define what is success. And to me, the theory of success it refers to the quality of the procurement conversation with our business. And very often, a quality procurement conversation would usually then determine the quality of our decision or action. And most of us would agree with me that a high procurement performance does not guarantee us a high customer satisfaction. The key factor to customer satisfaction is really to focus on business contribution, not so much on our procurement performance. And Kylie has some principles in measuring procurement success. And for me and my team, our principles are very simple. Number one, do we know our business? Do we spend time understanding the long-term business ambition and the current priorities? Do we ask, are we curious? Are we interested? And number two, do we know our suppliers? As we all know, suppliers are our company external resources with infinite pool of outstanding capability, talent, solution. And as procurement professionals, we should really bring our suppliers in. And this is where procurement can help to identify, select, develop, and even to manage the best supplier with a view to maximize their contribution to our business strategy. And number three, do we engage with true intent? Do we know our audience? What are their motivation, objective? And engage them in a manner where our procurement intent align with their business needs. And lastly, do we enhance on our procurement brand? And we all know procurement brand is at the core of the relationship. And to enhance on procurement brand, we need to invest in our team to make sure that they have the capability and the capacity to deliver. And lastly, our solution should be user-friendly, self-service, and customer-centric. Our processes should not be overly complex or administratively burdensome. Okay, over to you.
Thank you very much, Sebastian. Where I want to go next, though, is moving on to adopting digital technologies. It's a key part of modern procurement leadership because technology is moving so fast. There are so many new tools and solutions entering the market. Kylie, if I can start with you on this, as a procurement leader, how do you go about the key attributes of adopting digital technologies within your teams?
I think first is not about following the crowd blindly, like, oh, what is the flavor of the year, what is the flavor of the quarter, but it's really to see where can it enable us to do more with less. So in DBS, we started on our digital journey, even at the group level, many years ago, starting with digitizing the way we bank with our customer, the customers bank with us, and therefore we have to identify a differentiator. So just like we evaluate initiatives or business case, we need to use data to first drive the decision-making process. Whether is this process worth investing digital technologies, or would there be a more suitable approach to solve the problem? And also in adopting digital technology, we do need sponsorship at the top of the house so that we are able to then bring in the right SMEs and also design the appropriate change management process to allow us manage the transition and then also track the successes.
Thank you. Sebastian, if I can come to you next on this one.
Okay, so to me, certainly there are some important attributes for us to adopt and to drive digital transformation. And firstly, I will begin with intellectual curiosity. And for me, in order to deliver faster insights for business decision, the analytical skills is indeed in high demand. We need to know how to ask the right why question, detect the patterns in data, even to find the cause and the effect relationship, and always challenging the status quo. And the second attribute that I can think of now is business acumen. As a business function, procurement really needs to have a thorough understanding of our company, the operation, the value driver, and the competitive environment. And lastly, storytelling skills. As we all know, data is the mechanism that makes digital business possible. But the delivery mechanism is really a story. And the best digital technology will not change the mind of any CEO if the result or the outcome cannot be expressed either in the form of a story, a business problem, or a solution. So this is what I can think of some of the key attributes in order to drive and adopting digital transformation. Over to you.
Thank you, Sebastian. Ramesh, if I can come to you next on that, please.
Yeah, so I think just before I kind of talk about how we look at it, I think first is we need to understand that the digitalization journey for a procurement organization cannot be a standalone venture. Right? It has to be highly embedded with the corporate roadmap of how they look at digitalization. Otherwise, we'll be sitting in one single isolated place. So there are three pockets of digitalization we have tried to handle, and that's where we had our pain points. I think one was more around data analytics. So basically, because of new acquisitions and different mergers and so forth, means our procurement data got more and more kind of adulterated over a period of time. So we've been constantly using machine learning and AI to get that cleansed up to a particular level now that it makes sense for us to take some prudent decisions. The second area is more around supplier management, right? So basically, within supplier management, how do we use analytics? How do we use historical data? How do we use external market benchmarks to make that assessment with respect to how we segregate our suppliers? And third is a very kind of a more tactical way to look at buying channels, as well as electronic RFXs and so forth. That's purely to get more efficiencies and reduce time. So using robotics to some extent, but really maximizing on machine learning is the way forward. Looking at these three priorities for us. This is not the only. It's not that once we are done with this. There are many more. It's just that we are handling it the way we look at our priorities. Back to you.
Thank you, Ramesh. Well, we are rapidly running out of time, so I am going to move things on a little bit. And the last question I want to come to is about encouraging your team to really embrace innovation as a leader. Sebastian, if I could start with you on that. There's so much innovation, so much new technology, whether it's AI, well, we've covered a lot of it during the show. For you, how do you encourage your team to embrace that innovation as a leader?
Okay, I may share the ABCD principle, and I'm not sure whether this is something relevant, but this is something that I stand guided in encouraging my team to embrace innovation. And what is the ABCD principle? And I think the A starts with ambition. We must really have a strong sense of ambition, believing in the better future, and together we want to build that future. And number two, with the ambition, we must move to act and not be paralyzed by overthinking or the fear of failure. And the third A is alignment. The solution to our problems, be it innovation or not, we know it cuts across the domain of different stakeholders. And this is where procurement need to draw the connection between the problems and the solution. And what are the three B? I would say believing, belonging, and becoming. Believing that we can become successful is the most important step. And this is where breakthrough thinking is required to break new ground. And belonging is where we decide to choose curiosity over complacency. We cannot solve our problems, as we all know, with the same thinking that we use to create a problem. And becoming is really we want to become better over time. And we don't always start off with a good service in the first try. It is always the constant tweak and the modification that make us better. And what are the three C? The first, capacity. We need to create the capacity so that we can do less and achieve more, rather than doing more with less. And the second C, to build connection. And this is where we need to foster stronger connection with the business beyond procurement. And the third C is the capability, where we build diverse capability in our procurement team. And lastly, in all we do, we need the 3D to raise the journey, whether we win or we lose. And to me, the 3D will stand for the determination, the dedication, and the discipline. Okay, over to you.
Thank you very much. You've rounded that up beautifully. Kai Ling, if I can come to you next for your thoughts on that, encouraging your team to embrace innovation as a leader.
Yeah, indeed. I think it can be daunting for colleagues to unlearn and relearn. So one of the approach that we do is to walk the talk. So i.e., for example, we need to have change champions within our team, someone who are their fellow colleagues and has been involved in adopting innovation so that it is they can relate better. They are talking about the same projects, they are talking about the same procurement process or systems, and the team do not think that, it's just another top-down approach or it is another fancy project. But someone amongst them has been through it, has endorsed it, and has seen benefits in adopting or embracing certain innovation or tools.
Thank you very much. And Ramesh, I'll give you the final word on this about getting your team to embrace innovation as a leader.
Sure. So I think firstly, innovation has to be in conjunction with the corporate vision of what the future looks like. So to me, we need to be very well tied with the line of sight that the company is wanting to have in the future and kind of complement that. What we have seen is that the maximum innovation is happening outside our supply base, and we somehow get stuck with our own supply base. So I think it's just that the effort to go out to that supply base, which is not in our current supply base ecosystem, is critically important. The second is that our current teams, to do their daily work and try to innovate, is something we have seen hasn't worked. So the ability to create a very dedicated, very small niche team, just doing day in and day out, is the way forward. So that would be the two lessons which I have learned with the environment I am in.
Thank you very much indeed. Well, we've packed a huge amount into these last sort of 20-25 minutes or so. So thank you all of you, Sebastian Chua, Ramesh Krishnamurthy and Kai Ling, for joining us here at Procurement and Supply Chain Live Singapore. Really enjoyed your company.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.